Hello. Welcome everybody back into Crypto's News. It's me, your friend, your friendly neighborhood, Crypto, aka Omar Bam. Been doing this since 2016 and very excited to share what I've wrapped up that's going on important as we wrap up this week, July 18th, 2025. We have plenty to talk about, a lot of excitement around the prices in particular, such as XRP, you might have noticed in the title, hitting a brand new all-time high. Hints that we might be entering this altcoin season also being shown in the fact that we have coins like Ethereum, Dogecoin surging yet again, and Bitcoin kind of staying flat, something that we do tend to see if there is going to be this altcoin season, altcoin being anything that is not Bitcoin in the digital asset space. They tend to have higher risk and higher reward. And once the money begins to realize that there can be higher reward that doesn't look like it comes with any risk, these markets tend to surge drastically and sometimes bringing in a lot of new capital, a lot of new interest to this space. So it's for, I think, a very good reason that a lot of people are beginning to become quite excited. So we're going to be covering that and plenty more. Welcome back to the show. Remember to hit like if you enjoy these kinds of weekly wrap-up videos. Remember to subscribe if you're new to the show. And please leave a comment down below with anything that piques your interest related to crypto. Let's go ahead and get started, guys, in today's live stream. So we're going to start off by looking at the prices. We currently have the overall market caps for crypto at $3.918 trillion, down 4.5%. They actually made a brand new all-time high. The entire market cap for cryptocurrencies actually broke $4 trillion for the first time. Massive to see. We also have Bitcoin dominance at 59.9%, ETH at 10.9%. We'll see if it climbs much higher. It's had trouble breaking above 11%, I would say, over like the last year, as far as I can remember. So coming back up to this level, touching 11%, I think is crucial and important and signals more about excitement toward Ethereum. We're going to get into in a moment. We have Bitcoin down 1.1% over the last 24 hours, sitting just south of 118,000. It's at $117,918. It is up just 0.3% over the last week, which again is kind of a far cry from some of these other altcoins. Ethereum, look at the last 7 days, up 20% and still continuing. It's been day after day of gains. It's right now $3,539.72. It broke 3,000, dropped back down slightly, and now has surged past it almost all the way up to 4,000. Looks like it's getting ready for that next leg up. We'll see how it fares from here. XRP, brand new all-time high. It was hit just 20 hours ago. It hit $3.65. It is up even more than Ethereum. It's up 26.6% over the last 7 days. Currently down 2.4% over the last 24 hours, but still right there, right around all-time high. We still have yet to see Ethereum hit an all-time high, so maybe this cycle we actually will be hitting it. Although I don't know that I believe in cycles anymore, as I mentioned in my last video. Anyway, BNB up 6.1%. That's Binance's coin. Solana resurging finally over the last 7 days, up 9.7%. It had lost some interest. I was seeing all these memes about Solana a year ago looking like all tough and then looking scrawny and like Caroline Ellison of FTX, just like raggedy now. But it looks like it's coming back, and it's just kind of the reverse for Ethereum, where it was like scrawny Vitalik, the memes, and now it's super buff, tough, creatine Vitalik in all the memes this week. And Dogecoin up 17.6%. Tron 8.3%, Cardano not being left behind 15.4%. Stellar Lumens, that one, when it starts running, dang, it goes crazy. I remember there was this app that I had downloaded once, and they gave you, some of you might remember I had mentioned it in the show, they gave you free Stellar just for signing up. And I was so amazed by how much that free Stellar became worth eventually. But yes, Stellar, kind of an offshoot of Ripple, up, or XRP rather, I would say, up 30% over the last 7 days. So one of the strongest performers. Hedera Hashgraph, H-bar up 34.6%. What is going on with Hedera? I guess there's some news there, to be had. Avalanche, 13.9%. I mean, anywhere you look, there's unless you're just holding Bitcoin, you've probably had some nice gains, or I guess like some of these less quality names way down the list. But if you're holding anything here on the front page, you're pretty happy at this time with some of the gains that you're having. Surely this is some diversification from players in this game. Maybe this even has to do with Bitcoin holders not wanting to be left behind and trying to get exposure to the altcoin market. They've maybe drank the Kool-Aid for a very long time from the Bitcoin maxis. I think it's very much the case that people have been around probably since after 2021 have really only known Bitcoin. Let's be real. Bitcoin is the safest place to be. Maybe they gambled on a altcoin, they lost, and Bitcoin has just continued to go up, and then they probably sold most of everything else, held primarily Bitcoin. And now they're like, dang, maybe this altcoin thing people are talking about is real, and they are now diversifying elsewhere. Definitely could be the case. So looking at the Bitcoin dominance, I mean, in the beginning, it was only Bitcoin. That's the orange here in this graph. In the gray, that's like other, and then some of the top names are these other colors. For example, Ethereum is in the yellow. So Ethereum had first taken quite a huge amount of market share from Bitcoin starting in 2016 and then really exploding in 2017 with the initial coin offerings, the ICO season, which was whoa to be around. And through 2018, it began to lose some of its significance, I guess you could call it, in market cap proportion. Came back somewhat in 2021, 2022 with NFTs, with DeFi projects, and then has dwindled since somewhat, losing to coins like Solana. But maybe this is the time where Ethereum comes ripping back. What I think is interesting is that some of these smaller coins, though they had a quite a period as well, like Ethereum did when it came to, for example, non-fungible tokens, NFTs, their interest has been subsiding. As I mentioned, people have really come to trust Bitcoin and some of these other names more over time, as I think their own understanding of the space and what is a gamble. It's just like when you think you're a pro day trader and you try day trading for a while, and then you realize it's just not worth the time and the money that you've wasted for the most part. I don't consider it wasting if you actually learn something educationally from it, but if you bet the house, lost it, and took down your whole family, then that, which happened with some cases, was definitely a problem. But there have been some big winners, don't get me wrong, who have gone ahead and mortgaged the house and put it into Bitcoin and been quite happy getting in. I mean, I've been seeing this since Bitcoin was around $100,000. People going ahead to do that kind of thing, taking on debt to buy this. I think if you're going to do so, then you should probably think longer term, longer time frames. Not that I'm suggesting you do so. And do it definitely in the higher blue chip cryptos. But yeah, I do wonder what happens here as Bitcoin maybe tops out in its dominance. Will it be Ethereum? Will it be these other coins? I would love to know your guys' thoughts on what is going on. I know where my bets are at. What's up? If you're just joining here, thank you for making it out. Wendell, supporter. Eric, thank you so much for supporting. Tech Ken, old school name. Seen you around forever, man. Good to see you. Kevin Hawthorne, hope you're doing well. Thank you always for the messages and the holiday messages. And Jack Knife, is my crypto family invited to the wedding? We're probably going to keep it just to the family, a few close friends, so maybe not. Maybe we can do some sort of meetup. It's probably going to be in Florida. So I don't know if there's enough interest. We can definitely do that. We can see about that. I wonder how many of you guys, okay, shout out. How many of you guys are in Florida, and what part of Florida are you guys at? That would be good, useful information to know if we do some sort of meetup around that time when I'll be in Florida. That would be helpful. Anyway, yeah, I haven't hosted a meetup since back when I first moved to LA. I was doing them all the time. Hosted some in Miami before Bitcoin and Ethereum blew up. They were like in 2016. I was hosting meetups in the Room on South Beach. Fantastic place with really nice craft beers and a dark environment. And I think I had like one guy show up, David, if you're still out there. And then I remember like he was one of the only supporters of Ethereum when I felt like I was just shouting at the moon and wailing into YouTube for nothing. So he shows up when I announced I was doing a meetup when I had very few followers at the time. And then we became friends. And he did really well in Ethereum. He didn't have to sell to support his life like I did at the time. So he managed to hold on to it. And he's he's probably quite happy. Who knows what David is up to? But then once you have the money, it's like, let's find meaning kind of thing, right? Anyway, yeah, 2017, man. Maybe we'll see that again. I mean, inflation has exploded. I mean, we've seen more and more money out there, and Ethereum hasn't even hit an all-time high. I think we're going to see a flood as that interest resurges, which appears to be happening. So taking a look over here at top assets by market cap, I kind of like that this is something being discussed and shared a lot on various crypto social media. So comparing cryptocurrencies to different companies and assets, we have gold at the top with a $22 trillion market cap. And this is not including derivatives. If we looked at some of these derivatives, the market caps will probably be much, much higher, derivative products, that is. But anyway, Bitcoin has dropped back down below Amazon. It was actually at the number 5 spot, and it's down to the number 6 spot right now as it collects itself here. I don't think there's any reason to think that Bitcoin won't continue higher. I think as long as the market is generally bullish, Bitcoin is going to go higher, but maybe more conservatively in some sort of altcoin season, which is what we've seen in the past. While you're seeing 30% gains on some coins, you're going to see maybe 5-10% on Bitcoin. And that's what tends to drive even more capital to these altcoins, right? So yeah, crazy though. Bitcoin is still over Google, which is massive, still over Silver, still over Meta platforms. Just a few more names, right, to take up. Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, and Ethereum. So Ethereum also has been performing really well. So we obviously passed Palantir at the number 30 spot. We passed Bank of America at the 34 spot. And maybe we'll be building more homes with any potential Ethereum profits. At least you guys will be able to own homes because we passed Home Depot. So maybe that's a better route toward homemaking, is purchasing Ethereum for folks. But anyway, Ethereum at the 25 spot, broke in the top 30. It has now passed Costco and Johnson & Johnson. Yes, Johnson & Johnson, another evil one that we've taken down. If you've done any sort of research into their business dealings and fraudulent activity and lies over the years, it makes me happy when we surpass some of the explicitly bad guys out there. Every company, I'm sure, has skeletons in the closet up here, but Johnson & Johnson had significant ones. Anyway, the next one that I'm aiming for here, I want to know what you guys are. I'm sure there's plenty of gamers out there that are hoping Tencent gets passed. For me, it's really Eli Lilly. I can't wait till we surpass Eli Lilly. Just an evil company. And then JP Morgan Chase. Oh, that's going to be a good one, since we had Jamie Dimon, the CEO, poo-pooing Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies for so long, and now just really trying to figure out how to offer products of any demand when they could have been early to the game, but instead they're late, it seems like, in developing these things. But yeah, we'll continue on here from here. Who was David Seaman? Oh, who's that David Seaman? I wonder what David Seaman is up to. Yeah, I actually haven't followed David for a long time, but he was pretty hardcore into Ethereum before some of his own financial dealings and personal dealings kind of overtook his mind share. So he's kind of stopped talking about Ethereum and cryptocurrencies, but he was an early one, man. Who else out here remembers David Seaman? What's he up to? You're not in Florida, but you own a motorhome road trip. Cool, Jackknife. Good to know you'd make it out if that's the case. And if it did happen, I would probably announce it here on the show. So definitely stay tuned week after week if you guys do want to stay up to date with that. Anyway, and along with everything else that's going on in crypto. So this is a kind of follow-up to the story that I covered, I believe it was last week. It was about this Bitcoin whale. No one knew who it was. Some people think it's Richard Hart, who claimed to have mined Bitcoin back in 2011, could possibly have a lot of Bitcoin, and been the person who sold for a $72,000 profit. It could have been Satoshi waking up. Nobody really is certain. But according to some of these blockchain forensics companies, such as Look On Chain, there was a massive profit that was made as this Bitcoin whale seems to have offloaded majority of these holdings, and they invested $132,000. Maybe they didn't even invest it. Maybe they just mined it, right? Staggering 72,000 time profit on that. Really huge. So what's interesting about this particular story is that it appears that following the wallets and tracking what left the wallets, what came out of exchanges. It seems like perhaps this whale sold and took profit to get into some of these altcoins, namely this article on AIinvest.com. It could have been Ethereum and XRP, which are now surging. So maybe this whale, again, just trying to diversify, not have all their eggs in one basket, realizing maybe this could be a signal for us. Alt season could be ahead, and it would be the time now to take the profit on that Bitcoin and try to see sizable gains elsewhere, if only to try to eventually go back into Bitcoin and grow your holdings there. So yeah, if that's the case, I think it could be a hint of alt season finally starting for real. And I have not really said alt season is coming or starting, but there's something that smells really different this time to me. It just feels different, like there's something major happening. And part of this might have to do with this week of crypto bills, where you're going to have the government here in the United States coming together to figure them out before their August break. So this is in particular related to 3 different bills. So we're talking about the Digital Asset Market Clarity, or the Clarity Act. We're talking about the Genius Act. That's the one that has to do with stable coins, and the Anti-Central Bank Digital Currency, or CBDC Surveillance State Act, that will stop the Federal Reserve from issuing some sort of digital asset economy, which we would all have to abide under, or even just issuing one in general. So all 3 were passed by lawmakers, bipartisan. So the Democrats and the Republicans passed it, though the Democrats said that there were all sorts of financial loopholes and things that could cause turmoil and chaos and risks to the financial infrastructure. But at the end of the day, it passed. So boo-hoo. 2 of these will be going up for debate, it looks like, next week. Even though they've passed, they were expected to land on the president's desk. They may see some amendments before ultimately getting ratified and so on. But it looks like one of these actually was already signed. So the Genius Act was planned to be signed today, Friday, by Trump, ending up on his desk. So yeah, pretty huge news. What people like about this most, it appears, is really the first 2. So talking about the one related to stable coins and the one related to crypto clarity, basically signaling to many financial institutions, local governments, etc., that crypto is not something that you're going to be in trouble simply for offering a product for. We have seen in the past with Operation Chokehold 2.0, for example, with crypto, that those who run the banks are saying, be careful if you're going to mess around with crypto, be careful, just be careful, right? The regulators. But now things have changed in a big way, signaling it's okay to build. It's okay to have this innovation, and we'll figure this out, right? So this is just something really big, especially in this era now of strategic reserves that could allow for even more entities to offer these kinds of reserves. And again, trading platforms, support for various digital assets. And so there's a real big reason, I think, that people are kind of excited about this, though others will say, I don't understand why crypto are happy about regulation. Right. I think part of it is also they had to spend so much money on lawyers just in case, because the law wasn't clear on effort to try to fight potential affronts against them if they tried something that was not explicitly said to be okay, right? So this is definitely a big game changer today, I think, when it comes to the financial economy, not even here in the United States, for the world, for the U.S. signals, right? And another big thing as a side note was agents. So today, ChatGPT, this is completely aside, just a quick aside. ChatGPT last night I saw had launched agents, so operator mode, to basically anyone with a pro account or higher. So if you pay $20 a month, you get a small limit of messages to send to this, but basically they've created their own browser, so you can ask the AI to do something, and the AI will use its browser, and you can see what it's doing, and do whatever, plan an event, order me food, do this. And I think that's huge, because this is really one of the first times that we are seeing on a mass level that AI is able to interact with the world. As OpenAI put out in their blog post, there are a lot of risks related to this, but they put in some safeguards. So we'll see what comes of this. But the game has officially changed here in regards to real world things happening. Now AI can actually hire you to do something. It's I wonder what the implications of this are going to be, but I think it's going to be massive. Anyway, I like this post that I found here on the cryptocurrency subreddit by Django Was Here, who asked, can someone explain to me why ETH has been surging recently? Can someone explain to me why ETH has been surging recently? I'm worried it might crash down again. I invested a lot of money into Ethereum in 2021. It hit its all-time high that same year, and I didn't take profit. Felt pretty crappy about that. I've been pretty disappointed in the performance of ETH for the past year, but it looks like it's starting to surge again. Should be way higher, but alas, well, at least this individual held on, right? At least they held. I think they'll be probably quite pleased with how much higher the gains are beyond the all-time highs we saw back then, before the insane money printing that has gone on and flooded into the economy after the COVID response. That kind of continues in certain respects, right? Is there pump and dump shenanigans going on? Should I take what profits I can get now? I want to know why ETH is doing well all of a sudden, because I'm a bit confused. Well, what was your investment thesis, buddy? I'm not entirely sure. But this response by Minimal Gravitas, I think, is excellent. So 4 hours ago, he said, there are two levels to this answer. The first and most obvious answer is that a lot of entities are starting to buy ETH in a big way. This is not just traditional finance institutions and whale traders, but even Bitcoin mining companies are selling their Bitcoin reserves and buying hundreds of thousands of ETH. So I must have missed these three articles. But yeah, it talks about Bitmine, probably the biggest household name for Bitcoin mining, proceeds from the private placement enable the company to adopt Ethereum as its primary being the key word here, treasury reserve asset. Interesting. Huge $250 million private placement funded in combination of cash and crypto. So Bitmine getting involved with Ethereum as their primary reserve asset. BTCT announcing completion of a $1 million Ethereum strategic reserve. This is just on July 11th. The one from Bitmine was on July 9th. So this is basically over the last week and a half that we're hearing this news. And also Bit Digital Inc. continues expansion of Ethereum holdings to approximately 120,000 ETH, reinforcing treasury strategy. So this also follows the news that I talked about with SBET and how they are this company that is now making Ethereum their primary focus for their company. It appears constantly just sharing stuff about Ethereum on Twitter. It's really wild. And yes, I'm going to continue to call it Twitter. I don't care. Maybe I'll be the last person calling it Twitter. Does anybody still call it Twitter? Let me know down in the comments below. I feel like a crazy person. X.com. Anyway, huge stuff happening here. The second part, though, is why. The answer is in the adoption of the Ethereum network itself. Huge numbers of mainstream companies are now building the future financial system on chain, finally recognizing the advantages that this offers them that we've been explaining for years. And despite the many claims of the marketing teams from Solana, Ripple, etc., the reality is that almost everything being built on chain is being done on the Ethereum ecosystem, as well as RWA platforms, banks, layer 2s, etc. One of the biggest use cases that is now being widely recognized is that of stable coins, which is definitely widely recognized now for sure after this Genius Act was passed today, pretty much before these amendments next week. There's more value in stable coins on Ethereum than in every other ecosystem combined. That fact combined with the security, robustness, and ability to capture value means that in the words of the recent Electric Capital report, Ethereum is uniquely positioned to host the global financial infrastructure for this new digital dollar economy, and ETH stands to benefit directly from this growth. Another report touches on what this level of adoption means for Ethereum is on Fidelity's recent publication on blockchains as emerging economies aimed at investors and folks on Ethereum. I haven't checked that one out yet, but I'm sure it's gold. Fidelity has done their homework on crypto for a very long time. Basically, the mainstream financial world has recognized that the actual usefulness of crypto is Ethereum, and that onboarding cannot help but create sustainable demand for ETH, the fuel, the asset. Unlike BTC, which depends entirely on people buying it in the hope that someone in the future will want to buy it for a higher price. Sad, because it was supposed to be for peer-to-peer transactions, but no, that is not the focus anymore. ETH will be needed by entities like Sony and Deutsche Bank, who are already using it to build out layer 2 networks to secure their layer 2 networks. So speculative investors, from retail ETF buyers to the Bitcoin miners noted above, are trying to front run that demand by buying now. We're getting hints from major players out there that you might want to be positioned in Ethereum. Donald Trump said it. Yeah, we took a step back, but I don't think he has a crystal ball and could have immediately influenced Ethereum to hit new all-time highs when he said, you'll basically regret not buying it right now. But surely he has some insight into what the administration was going to be doing to help position it to be in a better place. And it certainly deserved to be so with the reputable engineering of the network that continues to this very day, besides obviously utility and everything else. So yeah, really major stuff there. I think great comments. And so we're getting comments now from other players in the financial space, etc., about what these new bills and acts mean. So Charles Schwab, I had my first major, I've had other before, but when I was 18, no, I was 22. No, 23. I just graduated college, and I was working in fine dining at really two of the highest end places still to this day in Miami Beach. And Charles Schwab was where my accounts were. $10 trillion Charles Schwab CEO says they will launch Bitcoin trading sometime soon and will be competing with Coinbase. Yeah, Charles Schwab felt like it was built super conservatively, and just imagining back then that they could offer Bitcoin was inconceivable to me. But they're getting ready to compete with Coinbase, they said on CNBC. Also, MasterCard. So MasterCard News, the last thing that they put up here on X or Twitter or whatever, with the Genius Stablecoin Act now passed, we've entered into a new era of clarity and confidence in #digital assets, one we've been preparing for over the years. I feel like they've said very little, but clearly they've been preparing in the background, which shouldn't surprise too many of us. Again, they've been waiting for clarity before really launching anything. They've let others be the martyrs, let's call it, take the first arrows before coming out. We've worked across crypto and traditional finance ecosystems to explore how stablecoins can complement and enhance existing payment systems. We're talking about sub-second transfer times, right? Far cry from wire transfers and everything else. And another hint of something that could be coming up soon. I've seen this kind of headline around Donald Trump set to open U.S. retirement market to crypto investments. He's preparing an executive order to allow 401k plans to tap broad pool of alternative assets. I thought this was already obvious. I thought this was here with the launch of ETFs. But again, just signaling clarity about this is a major step to allowing for these things to be available for people in their retirement accounts, which I think is a necessity. The fact that it's not available is almost like you're dooming everyone to the old world while we're building the brand new one right before their eyes. Anyway, Ethereum, yeah, interest over time. The ticker is ETH. The network is Ethereum with an I. Good times. Interest is growing. Obviously for Ethereum, the actual asset, and for Ethereum in general. So this to me is a sign that maybe the not so knowledgeable are now getting interested in Ethereum. In regards to what Donald Trump had said or was being reported about this executive order about allowing 401ks to hold broad pools of alternative assets, Robert Breedlove, someone I do respect. Not really. He wouldn't call himself a Bitcoin maximalist, but he's kind of on that side. But I think he's a very broad thinker, very wise guy. He said, strong signal that the U.S. government will one day nationalize crypto assets held in custody with third party. So yeah, just a good reminder that if you are parking it on this traditional financial infrastructure rather than holding the private keys yourself, you could be liable to having them taken from you for whatever reason, right? We've seen it happen with gold in the past, where gold was confiscated from pretty much everyone here in the United States. And the same thing could happen with crypto. Just because this administration has done some work to make it available easier for folks doesn't mean, especially with Palantir out there working with them, that other future administrations will not try to seize this in the name of financial integrity. So it's a good point there from Robert that we should keep in mind while we root for this. I really don't care about this at all. I think it doesn't matter what they do. We're going to win. I think good always prevails in the end. Evil is too selfish. Evil shoots itself in the foot. Time and time. Good will prevail over the long term. And I feel crypto is good. So this was an interesting article. I just wanted to bring that also up as an aside, not directly related to crypto, but if you care about privacy, then you probably care about crypto, and they're all related. So this is talking about how Generation Z, so the generation after me, after the millennial generation, and the generation before the Generation Alpha. So like if you have a baby right now, from my understanding, they are Generation Alpha. I had heard that recently for the first time. I was like, oh, cool. I'll bring that up on the show and then let folks know that Generation Alpha heard it here first, guys. Anyway, Generation Z is spying on each other. So this talks about how Generation Z is by and large okay with sharing their location. They've lived in a world where they're constantly surveyed and they don't really care that much. They care more about their safety and so on. So, I mean, this was striking to me. I didn't realize just how many people use this kind of location sharing technology. But look at this data. A Harris poll survey conducted in 2022 for the New York Times found that 31% of Generation Z use location sharing apps like Find My or the Apple one, right? But according to a 2025 study, so this year, 65% of Generation Z adults use location sharing, and 16% of them share with 5 or more people. It's kind of like when we were growing up, at least like my generation. I'm sure anybody growing up, and we said, oh, you know, the older folks would look at us and say, oh, these young riffraff, that is crazy. I would never do that. And it's kind of like how I feel as a millennial looking at Gen Z. It's insane that privacy is being eroded through our minds by making this available to folks who are using it even without being forced to. So it's almost like Silicon Valley is winning here without having even tried because of how much Generation Z is using this. And it's likely a trend that could continue if I think there's not more awareness and respect about privacy into Generation Alpha and beyond. So people like spying on each other. There's a quote here from a Generation Z person who says, I like spying on people. I like pulling up my phones and seeing my friends who've shared whatever and seeing what they're up to, seeing who's in town at this time. It's wild to me that this is possible. There was one last snip. Yeah, perhaps what's fascinating about the demand for location sharing is consumers appear to be driving the trend rather than it happening to be Silicon Valley's latest rollout. So they're choosing this. Our smartphone's ability to know where we are wasn't intended to be a form of social media, but to give GPS directions to the doctor's office or find the best restaurants nearby. I think they hoped that people would share location more than could have been imaginable back then, but they've been pleasantly surprised by the adoption of this. Just wild to me that is even a thing. I would love your thoughts on that one down below. And our quote of the day here by Elon Musk, or quotable of the day. Wow, I can't believe Epstein killed himself before realizing it was all a hoax. Yeah, if you want more insight into that, I really enjoyed this conversation that I was checking out today. Eric Weinstein, Jeffrey Epstein was a front. The collapse has already started on the Diary of a CEO. Definitely a tough interview to have. The interviewer was pressed, and it was very difficult for him to ask the right questions. But the amount of information that Mr. Weinstein shared here, I think, is crucial for you to be aware of, or at least consider if you're a modern day living person. And plus, I have to give him a shout out because at the end he shouted out, like, what else should viewers think about at the end after this video as they go forward? And he mentions just a bunch of songs and stuff like that. But he mentioned my favorite piece of musical work ever created, Mass in B minor by Bach. So definitely knowledgeable guy. Highly recommend that, and it's worth all your time. It's 2.5 hours. I watched it while shaving, while in the bathroom over time, and I think you would enjoy it too. So my audience would anyway. And he definitely knows his stuff. He gives Bitcoin a few shouts there and talks about Satoshi's great work of genius a few times in that interview. So I think he's not someone who's just completely oblivious. Quite the opposite, in fact. They get into UFOs. They talk about, of course, Epstein. They talk about what's going on in the Middle East, Gaza, Israel. I don't know if I'm allowed to say these words on YouTube. In the past, I've been censored, and it's been difficult, guys. It's been difficult. But I think I've seen other YouTubers talking about these names, so maybe I'm allowed to now again without getting shut down. I guess we'll find out after this video. Anyway, if you enjoyed the content, please give it a like. Maybe it'll help this video not be shadow banned. There's another word I probably shouldn't be saying. Oh, this self-censoring. Let's just stop it, right? Anyway, take care, guys. I hope you have a fantastic week. Thank you for joining me out here, all of you, and those of you I didn't recognize, such as B Internet User, Mr. Meaner. Thank you guys for joining me at the end of this week, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Take care. Much love. Stay cryptic. Peace.